James Wilson, a 42-year-old IT manager, never thought I'd be sharing this story. But here I am, trying to make sense of how my ex-wife Diana not only falsely accused me of cheating, but also managed to turn my own parents against me. She nearly destroyed my life and left my reputation in tatters. I still remember the first time I met Diana at my college friend's wedding. She was stunning in a navy blue dress, confidently mingling with guests at the reception. There was something magnetic about her presence. The way she spoke, her infectious laugh, and how she seemed to command attention without even trying. I noticed her during the reception dinner, seated at the table next to mine. She was animatedly discussing marketing strategies with another guest, her eyes lighting up as she spoke about her latest campaign. I couldn't help but be drawn to her enthusiasm and intelligence. Marketing can be so much more than just selling products, I overheard her saying, her hands moving expressively as she spoke. It's about telling stories that resonate with people. When our mutual friend, the bride, introduced us later that evening, I felt an immediate connection. But Diana made it clear from the start that she wasn't looking for anything romantic. "I appreciate your interest, James," she said with a gentle smile, "but I'm focusing on my career right now." I respected her honesty and maintained a friendly relationship. We'd see each other at various social gatherings, and I always made sure to keep things cordial and professional. I didn't want to make her uncomfortable or pressure her in any way. Social events. Throughout these social gatherings, I noticed Diana's sophisticated taste in everything from her designer outfits to her choice of wine. She worked at a prestigious marketing firm in downtown Chicago, and her lifestyle reflected her success. While I admired her drive, I also saw glimpses of vulnerability when she'd mention her family. "My father," she once confided during a quiet moment at another friend's party, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. "After Mom passed, he just, he chose the bottle over everything else. Over me." Her usual confident demeanor cracked slightly, revealing a pain she usually kept well hidden. One particular night stands out in my memory. Diana had too much to drink at a mutual friend's house party. Her carefully maintained composure was slipping, and I could see she needed help getting home safely. "Let me call you a cab," I offered, gently taking her phone before she could order another drink. "You shouldn't drive tonight." She looked at me with unexpected vulnerability. "Why are you always so nice to me, James?" "Because that's what friends do," I responded simply, helping her into the cab and making sure she got home safely. The next day, she sent me a text. "Thank you for taking care of me last night." Not many people would have done that without expecting something in return. Work party. A few weeks later, my IT company was hosting its annual corporate gala. Looking at the invitation on my desk, I casually mentioned it in our friend group chat. "Anyone interested in free food and awkward dancing with tech nerds?" To my surprise, Diana privately messaged me. "I wouldn't mind being your plus one if you're still looking for company." Her message caught me off guard. This was Diana Foster, the woman who'd made it clear she wasn't interested in anything beyond friendship. Yet here she was, volunteering to be my date for the evening. The gala evening. The night of the corporate gala, I picked Diana up from her trendy apartment in Lincoln Park. She emerged wearing an elegant black dress that made my simple suit feel inadequate. The moment felt different from our usual interactions. There was a subtle tension, an unspoken shift in our dynamic. "You clean up nice, James," she said with a smile that seemed more genuine than her usual polished expressions. "Your company better have good wine to match." During the drive to the venue, our conversation flowed naturally. Diana shared stories about her latest marketing campaign, and I found myself opening up about my recent promotion to IT manager. The evening felt comfortable, yet charged with possibility. At the gala, Diana fit seamlessly into my corporate world. She charmed my colleagues with her marketing insights and laughed at their terrible tech jokes. I watched her across the room, talking animatedly with our CFO about digital marketing strategies, and felt something stir in my chest. "Your colleagues are actually fun," she whispered to me during dinner. I thought I'd be surrounded by people talking about coding all night. "We're not all socially awkward stereotypes." I laughed, feeling more relaxed than I had in months. As we swayed together during a slow dance, Diana rested her head briefly on my shoulder. The familiar scent of her perfume made my heart race, but I kept my emotions in check, remembering her previous boundaries. The drive home. The drive back to her apartment was filled with comfortable silence and shared glances. When we arrived, Diana turned to me with an intensity I hadn't seen before. "Would you like to come up for a nightcap?" she asked, her fingers playing with her keys. I hesitated, my hands gripping the steering wheel. Everything in me wanted to say yes, but I needed to be sure this wasn't just the evening's atmosphere affecting her judgment. "I should probably head home," I said softly. "But I had a wonderful time tonight, Diana." She looked surprised, maybe even a little hurt, but then her expression shifted to something that looked like respect. The next morning. The following morning, my phone lit up with a message from Diana. My heart raced as I opened WhatsApp, her profile picture appearing at the top of the screen. "I need to be honest with you, James. These past few weeks, I've been fighting something I didn't want to admit." Her message appeared, followed by the typing indicator. "I've developed feelings for you. The way you've always respected my boundaries, how you took care of me that night I was drunk, and never once tried to take advantage. You're different from anyone I've known." I stared at my phone, reading the message multiple times to make sure I wasn't imagining things. My hands were slightly shaking as I typed my response. "I won't lie. My feelings for you never really went away. But I need to know this isn't just a passing moment for you." New beginning. What followed was a whirlwind romance that felt both exciting and natural. Diana's marketing background showed in how she approached our relationship. Everything had to be Instagram-worthy, from our dinner dates at Chicago's trendiest restaurants to weekend getaways in Michigan. "Life is about creating moments worth sharing," she'd say, positioning us for yet another perfect photo opportunity. I didn't mind it then. In fact, I found her attention to detail charming. She brought color and excitement to my previously routine-driven life. When she'd post our photos with captions like, "Found my IT guy #blessed," I'd just smile, happy to be part of her curated world. Moving in together. After 18 months of dating, our lease renewals were approaching, and Diana suggested we move in together. We started apartment hunting in Chicago's upscale neighborhoods, and that's when I noticed the first real warning sign. "James, this view is absolutely perfect," Diana exclaimed, walking around a luxury apartment in River North. "Imagine the sunset photos we could take here." I glanced at the rental price again, $3,500 per month. "Diana, this is way beyond what we discussed for our budget." She turned to me, her expression changing from excitement to calculation. "Well, you make more than I do. It's only fair that you cover more of the rent. Maybe 70 minus 30? The warning signs. Looking back, I should have recognized this as a major red flag. Our expectations about money and lifestyle were completely misaligned, but I was too caught up in my feelings to acknowledge it. "That's not really how partnerships work, Diana," I tried to explain, looking at her luxurious handbag that I knew cost more than my monthly car payment. "We should split expenses fairly based on our incomes." She pouted, a gesture I once found endearing, but now seemed manipulative. "But James, don't you want me to be happy? All my colleagues' partners take care of them." We eventually found a place, a modern high-rise apartment that stretched my budget to its limit. But the real issues surfaced when we started furnishing our new home. My carefully collected furniture, pieces I'd chosen over years, became a source of constant criticism. "Oh, honey, we can't possibly keep that old armchair," Diana said, her nose wrinkling in distaste. "It doesn't match our aesthetic at all. What will people think when they visit? It's comfortable and has sentimental value," I defended, remembering the hours I'd spent reading in that chair. "Not everything needs to be Instagram perfect." "But it's so basic," she insisted, scrolling through her phone to show me expensive modern furniture. "We need our home to reflect our lifestyle." The word "our" felt hollow somehow. In the end, most of my furniture ended up in storage or crammed into my home office. Diana filled our space with trendy, expensive pieces that made me feel like I was living in a magazine spread rather than a home. Meeting the parents. What complicated everything was how skillfully Diana had won over my parents, Robert and Mary Wilson. From the beginning, she played the role of the perfect daughter-in-law, sharing recipes with my mom and discussing business with my dad. "She's such a lovely girl, James," my mother would gush after Diana brought her expensive spa vouchers. "So thoughtful and sophisticated." When Diana shared her family history with them, about her alcoholic father and deceased mother, my parents practically adopted her. They didn't see how she was using her past to manipulate their sympathies. The proposal. After 3 years of dating, I proposed to Diana. The decision came after months of her dropping hints about marriage and starting a family. I spent weeks selecting what I thought was the perfect ring, a designer piece that cost 3 months of my salary. I planned the proposal at La Colonial, her favorite French-Vietnamese restaurant in Chicago's Gold Coast neighborhood. The ring felt heavy in my pocket as we enjoyed our dinner, Diana chatting about her latest marketing campaign. "Diana," I started, my heart racing as I got down on one knee beside our table. "These past 3 years have been the most amazing of my life. Would you do me the honor of becoming my wife?" The restaurant fell silent. Diana's eyes welled up with tears as she said yes, her hands trembling as I slipped the ring onto her finger. The other diners applauded, and Diana immediately pulled out her phone to capture the moment for social media. Wedding planning. The reality of our financial situation became glaringly apparent during wedding planning. Diana had a vision of a luxury wedding at the Peninsula Chicago with no expense spared. However, her own savings were minimal due to her student loans and shopping habits. "My marketing job might pay well, but these student loans are killing me," she'd say, while simultaneously ordering another designer dress for our engagement photo shoot. My parents, Robert and Mary, and I ended up covering almost 90% of the wedding expenses. Looking back, I should have seen this as another warning sign, but I was determined to give Diana her dream wedding. "Don't worry about the cost," my mother assured me. "Every bride deserves her perfect day." The wedding itself was everything Diana had dreamed of: elegant, Instagram-worthy, and featured in several local wedding blogs. But as we exchanged vows at the Peninsula's Grand Ballroom, I couldn't shake the feeling that something felt off about the whole thing. Married life begins. The first major crisis hit us when we couldn't conceive. Month after month, Diana would stare at negative pregnancy tests, her disappointment growing more palpable each time. After 6 months of trying, we decided to seek medical help at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. The diagnosis was devastating. Diana had a uterine condition that made natural conception nearly impossible. I can still remember sitting in that sterile medical office, holding Diana's trembling hand as the doctor explained our options. "There are other paths to parenthood," I suggested gently on our quiet drive home. "We could consider adoption or maybe surrogacy." "You don't understand," Diana snapped, her voice sharp with pain. "I want our baby. My baby. Not someone else's leftover child." Her words shocked me, revealing a harshness I hadn't seen before. After that, Diana spiraled into depression, spending most of her time in bed, or mindlessly scrolling through social media. But even in her depression, her materialistic tendencies didn't wane. Financial struggles. I think I should quit my job, Diana announced one evening, not looking up from her phone. All this stress isn't helping with the fertility issues. I nearly choked on my coffee. Quit your job. Diana, we can barely manage our expenses with both our incomes. She finally looked up, her expression cold. James, as my husband, you should be able to support me. Look at Sarah from my office. Her husband takes care of everything so she can focus on starting their family. We're not Sarah and her husband, I argued, frustrated. And we have a $3,000 monthly rent to pay, not to mention all our other expenses. So what you're saying is, you can't provide for your wife. Her voice dripped with disappointment. Maybe I should have married someone more successful. The unraveling. Our life started falling apart when Diana quit her job without discussing it further. She claimed the stress was affecting her mental health, but instead of using the time for self-care, she dove deeper into her online gaming community. I'd come home from long days at the IT firm to find her exactly where I'd left her, on the couch, headset on, completely immersed in her virtual world. Our expensive apartment, which she'd once insisted needed to be Instagram perfect, started collecting dust. Did you at least think about the job applications I sent you? I asked one evening, watching her tap away at her phone. She mumbled, not even looking up. She was messaging someone, smiling at her screen in a way she hadn't smiled at me in months. The discovery. The truth came out when I was reviewing our phone bills. A single number appeared dozens of times on Diana's line, with calls lasting hours. Who's Jacob? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Diana barely glanced up from her phone. Just someone from my gaming group. Why? You're talking to him for hours every day. She shrugged, a small smirk playing at her lips. Maybe he's more interesting than you are. He actually listens when I talk. My hands shaking, I picked up her unlocked phone from the coffee table. The WhatsApp messages between them made my stomach turn. They'd been exchanging explicit messages for weeks. Worse, Diana had been telling him intimate details about our marriage. He thinks you're such a fool, Diana said, watching me read with an almost amused expression. Paying all the bills while I get to stay home and chat with him all day. His words, not mine. The confrontation. I want a divorce, I said, my voice surprisingly steady despite the rage and hurt churning inside me. This marriage is over. Diana's amusement vanished instantly. Divorce. Don't be ridiculous, James. She sat up straighter on our expensive couch, the one she'd insisted we needed. We can work something out. Maybe an open marriage? An open marriage? I laughed bitterly. After you've been emotionally and possibly physically cheating on me? While I've been working overtime to support your lifestyle? You're overreacting, she said, but I could see panic starting to creep into her expression. Besides, where would I go? This is my home too. Your home that I pay for, I reminded her. Pack your things and leave. Now. That's when Diana's demeanor changed completely. Her face contorted with anger as she grabbed her phone. Fine. If that's how you want to play this. The setup. I watched in disbelief as Diana called my parents, her voice transforming into something small and broken. Robert? Mary? I need your help. She sobbed into the phone. James, he's been cheating on me. I've suspected for months, but now I have proof. My mother called me within minutes, her voice shaking with fury. How could you do this to Diana? After everything she's been through? Mom, she's lying, I tried to explain. She's the one who's been cheating. I have proof. Don't you dare try to blame her. My father's voice cut in. We raised you better than this, James. Diana showed us the lipstick on your shirts, told us about all your late nights at work. I felt sick as I realized Diana had been laying this groundwork for months, preparing for this moment. The fallout. She's manipulating you both, I argued, pacing in our living room while on speakerphone with my parents. Think about it. When have I ever given you reason to doubt me? You know me. I'm your son. We thought we knew you, my mother said, her voice thick with disappointment. But the James we knew would never stay out until midnight with female coworkers. I froze. What are you talking about? Diana showed us the texts, my father added. About your project's meetings with that woman from your IT team. The one you kept mentioning at family dinners. The realization hit me. Diana had twisted every innocent interaction, every normal workday, into something sinister. For months, she'd been feeding my parents a carefully crafted narrative, preparing for this moment. Legal battle. I hired Sarah Chen, one of Chicago's top divorce attorneys. In our first meeting, I laid out everything: the messages between Diana and Jacob, our financial records, everything. Your wife was smart, Sarah said, reviewing the evidence. But not smart enough. These WhatsApp messages about using you as a cash cow, they're going to help us immensely. The divorce proceedings were brutal. Diana fought tooth and nail, attempting to paint herself as the victim of my alleged infidelity. But the evidence was overwhelming. The judge reviewed the messages, our financial records, and the timeline of events. In light of the evidence presented, the judge announced, and considering Mrs. Wilson's documented infidelity, no alimony will be awarded. Diana's perfect mask cracked at those words. For the first time, she looked genuinely shocked. Her carefully laid plans had failed. Aftermath. Even after the divorce was finalized, the pain didn't end. My parents, especially my mother, couldn't, or wouldn't, see the truth. They continued their relationship with Diana as if nothing had changed. Your mother misses the old you, my father said during one of our increasingly rare phone calls. The person you were before you started making up stories about Diana. Making up stories? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Dad, the court saw the evidence. The judge ruled in my favor. How can you still believe her? There must have been something you did to push her away, he insisted. Diana would never. New beginnings. A year and a half later, I met Emma Parker at a local photography exhibition in downtown Chicago. She was different from Diana in every way. Genuine, down to earth, and refreshingly honest. As a pediatric nurse, she had a natural compassion that showed in everything she did. I love that you still have this vintage armchair, Emma said one evening, curling up in my old reading chair that Diana had hated so much. It has character. Our relationship developed naturally, without any need for social media validation or expensive displays of affection. Emma understood the value of quiet moments and simple pleasures. The pregnancy news. When Emma told me she was pregnant, we were sitting in our favorite coffee shop in Lincoln Park. No staged photos, no elaborate announcement plans, just pure, unfiltered joy. We're having a baby, she whispered, tears in her eyes as she showed me the positive test. I broke down crying right there in the coffee shop, not caring who saw. After everything I'd been through, this moment felt like a miracle. The engagement. The proposal to Emma wasn't a grand social media event. Just us on a quiet evening at Montrose Harbor, watching the Chicago skyline. When she said yes, her joy was genuine, untainted by thoughts of Instagram likes or status updates. I can't wait to build our life together, she said simply, and I knew she meant every word. My mother's phone call came a few days later, after one of her friends had seen Emma's simple ring announcement on Facebook. Is it true? She asked, her voice hesitant. You're engaged. Yes, Mom. Emma and I are getting married. And we're expecting a baby. Why didn't you tell us? Her voice cracked slightly. People are talking, James. They're asking why we weren't the first to know. Given how you've treated me these past few years, can you blame me? The final confrontation. A few days later, Emma showed me a message she'd received from my mother on Facebook. The words made my blood boil. A good wife brings families together, not tears them apart. Diana always understood that. You clearly don't deserve my son. I called my mother immediately, my voice shaking with anger. This ends now. You can keep pretending Diana was the perfect daughter-in-law, but you lost your son because of it. We just miss who you used to be, she pleaded. Before the divorce with Diana. You mean when I was being manipulated and cheated on? That's the son you miss. Epilogue. Emma and I had our intimate wedding ceremony at the Chicago Botanic Garden, surrounded by people who truly cared about us. My parents weren't there, but Emma's family embraced me as their own. Now, as I write this from our honeymoon in Michigan, I finally feel at peace. Emma's asleep beside me, her hand resting protectively over her growing belly. We're planning to announce the pregnancy to our close friends and family soon. Sometimes the family you're born into isn't the family you end up with, and that's okay. I'm looking forward to being the kind of father my child deserves. One who sees the truth and stands by it, no matter what.